Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Let's continue with our episode. So in this episode, we are going to work on our authentication mechanism of the application. So can you see right now, we have plenty of endpoints. Some of the endpoints are public and some of the endpoints are private, right? So we need to somehow protect all the private endpoints with some kind of security mechanism, right? So as soon as you are register or log in, you need to provide your credential, and then in return, we will provide you some kind of access token, right? So with the help of that access token, you can access all these private endpoints. That means only that specific valid user can access that specific routes, right? So this is what we are going to do. As I have explained in the beginning of this tutorial, we are going to apply the native user login and the cognito user login. That means we will be having two types of security mechanism, right? So both the mechanism we are going to visit, but right now we are going to focus on native user login. And as soon as we are going to apply this GraphQL, then we will be moved to cognito user login also. So right now we need to protect all these routes here, right? So how we can do that? So in this case, we're going to create some kind of utility functions, right? So let's try to create all those utility functions. So let's go to helpers here, where we have already one directory that is called helper. So let's try to create one file that is called auth. New Go file. This is going to be auth.go. Perfect. So now you can see it is already marked as a kind of helper, right? So here inside the auth, we are going to declare one struct that is called auth type auth. It is going to be a kind of struct, right? And we are going to define one parameter here that is going to be secret, and this is going to be string. Perfect. So now we have our auth struct here, right? Here inside this auth.go file, right? So let's try to create a couple of receiver functions, which is going to help us to accomplish the whole authentication mechanism, right? So let's try to do that one by one. Okay, so first of all, what we are going to do, we will be going to create one receiver function that is called create the hash password, right? So let's try to do that. This is going to be our auth and a create hash password. Yeah, you can keep a shorter name also, but in my case, I'm just keeping a kind of a little bit meaningful name. So your function has to be express the thought what exactly you are going to do with the help of this function, right? So this is the way you can do it, but this is not the case like always. You can follow whatever you like it. So okay, cool. Now our create hash password is going to return some kind of plain text. It will going to accept some kind of plain text, and it will return a kind of hash password, right? So that is what we are going to do. So let's try to accept as a p as a parameter that is going to be password. All right, and here we are going to return, this is called string and error, right? So this is going to be our hash password as a string, and return will be error, right? So for a while, what we are going to do, we are going to return some kind of empty string and nil, right? So let's try to onboard all the required receiver functions first, then we are going to work on whatever the contents inside it's going to be, right? So let's try to do that. So I'm gonna copy this function. I don't wanna like make you people bored by typing all the codes line by line. So here, next function is going to be like generate token, right? So in this case, what we are going to accept. So first of all, we're going to accept as a kind of ID. ID will be int, integer, right? And this is going to be uint, right? It shouldn't supposed to be negative, right? And second parameter, we are going to accept email, right? This is going to be string. And third parameter, we're going to be rule. So rule is extremely important for us, right? So while we are generating the token, then we need to give the information of the rule also. It can be buyer or it can be seller, right? So this is often we are underestimating, but while we are having this kind of accessibility or maybe authorization functionality, then definitely we need to consider this rule also while we're generating the token. Perfect. So now we need to add one more function here. So this is going to be our verify password, right? So let's try to add that one. Verify password. So this is going to be capital letter P. And here, while we are verifying our password, then we need to provide our plain password and hash password, right? So this is going to be like plain password, and another one is going to be hash password, HP, let's say. right? And we are not returning any kind of string, only we are comparing our planned password with our hash password. If everything is matched, then we are returning nil as a kind of error, right? And if it is not matched at all, then we are going to throw some kind of error, right? So that is what we are going to do. But as of now, let's try to put a kind of nil here, just to satisfy the constraint, right? So at least we can have all the functions together. Then one more function we need to add, that is called verify token, right? So let's try to grab this function here, add one more. This is going to be verify token, right? So in this verify token, we are going to receive the token from our header. So let's try to provide t as a kind of token string, and we will say here we need to provide some kind of return also, right? So while we are going to verify the token, and it will going to decode the token from here, and it will convert that specific token, the data, to a kind of model, right? That is what we need to do. So in this case, let's try to return some kind of data from here. This is going to be our domain user, right? Then we are going to return error also, right? Either it will return a kind of user model, and otherwise it will return error, right? So in this case, let's try to return empty domain dot user, right? This is going to be empty user. Yeah, now it is satisfied. Perfect. So here one more function we need to add, that is called authorize, right? So let's try to add one more function, right? And as an input, what it's going to take this is going to take some kind of CDX context as a fiber context, right? So when this authorize function will get called, so if you go to handler, let's say go to user handler, and if you can see one of the endpoints, as an example, the verify one, right? So while you are going to call this verify endpoints, right before reaching out to this get verification code, it has to authorize the user, right? Then only we can perform the operations by getting the current user, etc., right? That is the specific things going to handle by our authorize function, right? Perfect. Then I think we are good, but yeah, one more function is going to be needed here. So this is the last one. So let's try to add one more. This is going to be our current user, right? So we need to grab our client user also once we are authorized that specific routes, right? Because if you go to handler, then here somewhere we need to grab our client user, right? Because that any data, any kind of data operations that is going to be happen on behalf of that specific user only, right? Where maybe we need to have our user ID, user email, or some kind of rule information, etc. So that is we can get it. So that is we can get it from these get client user, right? So maybe you can say like get client user, right? This is going to be more meaningful, get client user. And here we are going to pass the same kind of stuff. This is going to be something like the CDX fiber, CDX, right? And here we are going to return our user, domain user. Yes, perfect. So let's try to return empty user here. Cool. All right, so now let's try to add some code one by one, all these functions, right? So first of all, let's try to handle this create hash password, right? So first we will check it out if our password is empty, right? So how we can do that? If len of our p is less than 6, right? At least 6 character has to be there. Then we will say our return empty, and instead of nil, we are going to provide some kind of error.new. This is going to be like password length city, right? So you can customize your error message accordingly, but in later stage we are going to use some kind of different way to convey our error messages, right? So as of now, let's try to stick with this plan. So now let's try to grab our hash password, right? Hash password, and error will be our. We're going to use Bcrypt library. So Bcrypt library, you no need to install at all because it's by default, it's added in our Go package. So let's try to use Bcrypt, right? Bcrypt. So here we can say generate from password, right? And we need to provide bytes here. So this is going to be byte, array of bytes, right? And here just to provide the password, this is going to be our P, all right? So now we need to provide our cost. So that is going to be like 10 as an example. Okay, so now let's try to check it out if there are any kind of errors are there, right? So if this is going to be error, if error is not equal nil, then return some kind of error. So here, try to provide this one, and this error we can directly send this error also here, or maybe we can provide some kind of custom error also, right? So this is not a kind of good practice at all. Whatever the error, whatever the internal error you are getting it, you should not supposed to pass to the customer or maybe client, right? So that has to be logged somewhere. Log actual error, and report to logging tool, right? So any kind of logging tool you can use, and pass that specific actual error to the logging tool, as well as you can provide some kind of custom error to our client. As an example, password hash fail, right? Fail. Cool. Now here, this hash password we need to return, but we cannot directly return this hash password from here. So what exactly this generate password is returning, you can see here it's a kind of array of byte, right? Array of byte. So how we can do that as a kind of string, we need to convert it string and just provide this hash password. So now you can see our create hash password is going to accept some kind of plain text, and it will convert to a kind of hash, right? That is what we are going to do here. Okay, now let's go to the generate token, right? So here in the generate token, we're going to grab all these parameters and we will check it out whether if it is empty, right? If it is empty, then we are going to return some kind of error, and if it is not, then we are going to generate this token. Let's try to validate the important informations, right? So first of all, we will say if id equal 0 or email equal empty or rule equal empty, right? Because all of the constant, one of them, if it is empty, then we are not going to generate the token at all, because all the informations are extremely necessary, right? So let's try to do that. So in this case, let's try to return the empty string here, and we are going to pass some kind of error also. Let's try to grab this piece of code and add it here, and here we are going to say so if everything is going well here, then we are going to generate the token, right? So how we can generate the token? We're going to use JWT, right? So as of now, we don't have the JWT library, right? So let's try to add that one. So now let's try to grab the JWT library from Go, okay? Go get github.com/golang_JWT/JWT-v4, okay? So let's try to add that one. Perfect, so it is added right now. So here, right after this if condition, let's try to add some code. First of all, token will be there. This is going to be our JWT new with claims, right? So here we need to provide a method that is called JWT. So signing method will be HH256, right? And here we are going to provide the claims, JWT.map claims. What are the claims we are going to map it here? That is, we need to provide. First of all, we are going to say user ID, and this is going to be our ID. That is already we have been passing here, right? And second, we are going to say email will be our email, right? Then third one is going to be our rule will be our rule. That is also we have accepted here. And the fourth one, we are going to say expiry, because we need to validate that specific token has to be expire in a certain time, right? So that is we need to do it. So in that case, we are going to say some kind of time dot now. You can say now, right? And let's try to add some duration here. This is going to be like time dot hours into 24 into 30 days, let's say, right? So till 30 days it will be going to be valid. Then we need to provide a Unix. Cool. So now this is our expiry. Right now we have our token, and we need to sign this token, right? Using our secret key that is already we have added here, this secret. And this will become from where we are going to instantiate this specific struct, right? there we are going to pass this secret, and that is we are going to implement here. So now let's try to grab our signed token here. Token dot sign string. So here we need to provide our secret. So this is going to be byte, array of byte, and inside the array of byte we are going to say a dot secret. So can you see it is accessible from here, right? So this is coming from here. Cool. Now we have our signed token, and we have our error also. If it is going something wrong, then definitely we will receive some kind of error. So that is we need to handle it, right? So let's try to handle this one. If error not equal nil, then we're going to return some kind of empty string plus error, right? So this error we can provide it, but still, as I said, we should not supposed to directly provide that internal error to our client, right? So we need to log it, but in this case we are going to return some kind of errors, some kind of custom error to our client. So this is going to be say like now everything is going good. Now let's try to return this token string. Perfect. Now add some code in the verify password. So in the verify password, we need to check whether this plain text password exactly it is valid or not. All right. So in that case, maybe already we have been added this validation. So let's try to grab this piece of code from here and go here and add it right after this here. But this is not going to be p anymore. This is going to be plain password, and it is not returning any kind of string here. It is only returning the error. So let's try to remove this string from here, right? And this is perfectly fine now, right? So now what we are gonna do, we are going to compare the password by using our bcrypt library. So in that case, let's try to grab the error, and we will say bcrypt. So compare hash and the password. So first of all, we will say our hash password. This is going to be byte, and here we are going to provide our hash password. This is going to be HP, right? And which is potentially we are going to store in our database. And the second parameter will be again array of byte, and here we will pass our plain password. Okay, so we will check if the error is not nil, right? Not nil. Then simply we will return. Error will be our password does not match, right? And if it is matched correctly, right? If there is no any kind of error, then return nil, right? That means it's a valid password. So verify password also done, right? Now let's go here in the verify token, right? Here in the verify token, we need to split our token into two pieces, right? So how the token will look like? This is going to be like bearer, and our token will be like this, some kind of value, right? So you can see there is a kind of empty space, right? So we are going to split our token by using this empty space into two pieces, right? And in the first half we are not interested at all, and the second part we are interested, right? This is the actual token, that is what we need to grab it, right? So let's try to do that. This is going to like token array, or token array will be our strings. Then we are going to say split. First of all, we are going to say the string will be our token, right? And second part will be empty space, right? So this is the separator part, which is going to help us to split the token. And we will say like if the len of the token array is not equal to, right? If it is not equal to, then we will say return domain and nil, right? So that means it's not a kind of valid token anymore, right? And maybe here we can just provide some kind of error also, right? So let's try to provide some kind of error, but we are not interested anymore, because anyway the domain of the user, this specific user, will be empty. Then we can catch it out right there, right? So this is the first part. And second part, if we say like if the token array is 1 not equal bearer, right? Then we will say return again here. okay, not equal, not double equal array bearer token. Then we are saying like return domain user as a kind of empty user, and we will say errors, some kind of error we need to provide. Invalid token. Cool. Perfect. So now we have our token string here. So let's try to parse this token string to JWT token, right? So at least we can get the claim data back, right? So let's try to do that. So here we're going to say token and error, right? And JWT dot parse token. And here we are going to provide the parse parameter as a kind of token string, right? The second parameter is going to be a kind of function here. Let's try to evaluate the token method here, right? So we will say the first parameter, we don't care about it. Second parameter, we will say okay, right? It will be a kind of boolean here, and we will say token dot method, and we need to cast this method to some kind of signature. This is going to be like JWT pointer to JWT dot signing method HMAC. This is perfectly fine. And we will say if not okay, if it is not okay, then return some kind of error here. Return nil, and second parameter will be error printf, let's say fmt dot error f, right? And here we will say unknown, and we will write error. Perfect. So if everything is all right and if it is okay, then what we are going to do, we will be setting up from here return, and this is going to be array of byte, and we will say a dot secret, right? And the last parameter is going to be nil. So now our once we are perfectly able to parse it, all right, we will check it out whether we have any error or not. So we will check like if there is any kind of error, then we will return domain and error, right? Or we can provide some kind of custom error also, right? So let's try to. This is not going to be invalid token. This is going to be invalid signing method, right? So now we have our token, but this token is a kind of JWT token, right? Can you see? It's a kind of JWT token, right? Cool. Now what we are going to do here, we are going to get the claims back from here, right? So let's try to check it out. If the claims and okay will be token dot claims, right? So again, we need to cast this type here. This is going to be our JWT dot map claims, and here we will say okay, and token is valid, right? If token is valid, then try to map the claims, right? All right, so now we have our claims here, right? Then we are checking it out whether is okay is true or not, right? And the token, whatever the token right here, it is valid or not, right? If it is valid, then one thing we need to do, right? So we can see like our token is correct and everything is going good, but if the token is expired, then what we are going to do? So now let's try to validate the token expiry date here, right? So we will say like if the float 64 and time dot now, then Unix, here we say Unix, then it's greater than these claims where we will say expiry date exp, that is exp maybe, right? Yeah, this is exp. Now we will parse it, plot 64, right? If whatever the time exactly it is greater than this time, right, the token expiry time, then we will say it's return domain will be empty user, and we will say error, the token is expired, right? Token is expired. Perfect. So if token is not expired, then let's try to grab all the claims data and map with our user model. Create one model that is going to be like our user. User will be domain.user, right? Let's map all the elements from the claims to our user model. So first thing will be our user.id. So this is going to be uint, and here claims, and we will be getting it out the user ID, and those informations from the claims you can get it from here. These are the informations exactly, right? So let's try to keep it here, right? Just to try to validate it out, user ID, right? Now from here we need to cast it plot64, then only it can be converted to uint, right? Now let's grab the email, right? So user.email will be our claims, and we can say email, then need to cast it string, right? Perfect. So now one more thing is going to be needed. This is called user type. User type will be, we will get it from our claim rule, claims, and this is going to be rule, and here we will say string. Perfect. So now everything is done, right? So let's try to delete all these things from here. And once we are grabbing, we are able to grab this user, then just to try to return the user from here. Return user and nil. Right. And if something is going wrong, then definitely we will pass it from here, right? Or maybe we can provide some kind of error also, like token verification fail. Token verification fail. Cool. Now we have our, once we are verifying our token, then definitely we will get it back to the user data. So now let's add some code to the authorize function. Here we are simply checking it out, like whether we have a verified token or not. If it is verified token, right, then we will set some kind of data to our context, right? And if it is not there, then definitely we will return 401 or 403 or something like that, right? So let's try to do that. So first of all, let's say auth header. Auth header will be our CDX. This context will be coming from here. Then we will say get request header, right? Get request header. And from header, we are only interested in authorization. Right? We have our authorization header right here. Then let's try to grab the user and error. Then we will say a dot verify, this verify token, and we will provide the auth header, right? And now we need to check it out whether we have any error or not. This verify token exactly is coming from here, this one, right? So now if we have any error, right? Error not equal nil, or maybe equal nil, and we have our user ID, right? Definitely if everything is going well, then only it is going to be assigned the user ID. Otherwise user ID will be nil, right? Then we can say like if user ID is greater than 0, right? Then we will say cdx.locals, and we can assign a key here. This is going to be user, and the second parameter is going to be our user, this one, the user model. So technically what we are saying, like we are grabbing the authorization header here, and we are trying to verify the token, right? And if everything is going well, we don't have any error. And if we have the user model here, then we are setting it up to context. So at least in the further operations where we are going to access our handlers, then we can grab that user and we can perform some operations, right? So then we are saying next, return cdx next, right? Then else, if it is wrong, all right, if it is not be able to grab the authorization header, then we are saying return cdx.status. This is going to be like 401 and session. Here we are going to say fiber.map and message will be authorization fail, right? Authorization fail. And second parameter we are saying region reason will be error, whatever the error we are getting it there, right? This error we are returning back, right? Then this return will be no more required, because in any way it will not going to reach here, right? Either it will fall back to this one, otherwise here. Cool. So our authorization function also covered right now, right? So now let's go ahead and grab the current user from here. So here, this is going to be very simple. Let's say user will be our cdx dot locals, and we will say user, right? And return user. We need to cast this one. This is going to be domain.userModel. Right, perfect. So while we are going to call this one, this get current user, then certainly we are going to get this domain user from there, right? Perfect. So now we have everything here, right? But can you see all the functions are receiver functions only? So somehow we need to instantiate this struct, right? So how we can do that? So let's try to do this way. Func setup auth, and we are going to accept some kind of string. Secret is a kind of string, right? And we will say auth. We'll return the auth, right? And here we are saying return auth will be our secret. Secret will be us. So while we are going to instantiate this struct, then we can access this setup auth. Then we need to pass the secret here. Then we will get this instance from here. Right. Perfect. So now let's go to our user handler. Now here in the user handler, we have our login function. So if you go to login function here, then we are accessing this login from our service. So let's go to this login function of this service. And can you see in the service struct, we have our repository. So here one more thing we need to do. That is going to be like our auth. Auth will be our helpers auth. Perfect. So that means while we are going to instantiate our service, then we need to provide this auth also, right? So where we can do that? So let's go to our handler again, user handler again. Somewhere here we are creating our service. Can you see this is our service, right? So let's try to create this one here, auth. But how we can get this secret from there, right? Somehow we need to grab it, right? So here inside this server.go file, right before setting up the REST handler, let's try to create our auth here. Auth will be our helpers.auth, helpers.setup auth, right? So here somehow we need to provide our secret also. But as of now, if you go to fconfig, we don't have that secret, right? App secret. So let's try to add one more variable here. This is going to be our app secret. This is going to be string, right? And that is we need to grab it from the same way from environment variable, right? So let's try to grab something from here, something like this way, right? And right after this, let's say app secret, and this is going to be app secret, right? And let's try to pass it here. App secret will be app secret. Perfect. But this app secret doesn't exist at all in our .env file. So let's grab this key from here, go to .env, and here we are going to provide the app secret. We will say our go app secret. Right? You can put any kind of string right here, and go to our configuration file once again, app config. Now everything is all right. So here we can put some kind of validation also, just like this, app secret, like this, and env variable. This is going to be our app secret not found. App secret not found. Right? Now let's go to server, and here we can provide now config.appsecret. Perfect. So now our auth is created, right? So now here, can you see our auth is created, but somehow we need to pass to our handler, right? So go to the REST handler here by clicking this one, and you can see here also we don't have our auth here, right? So let's try to add auth, and this is going to be helpers auth, right? Now let's go here, and we can provide it auth. Auth will be our auth. Perfect. So now our REST handler is having the auth, right? So if you go to setup routes, click here. So right now, can you see in the setup routes, this REST handler will be having the auth. So let's try to use that one, rh.auth, rh.auth, right? So now our user service is having the auth access, right? Now let's go here and again to the login and go to our service login, click here. And can you see here, we are having our user, that's perfectly fine. Now inside this login, let's try to access our auth here, right? So first of all, the error will be s.auth, because right now here in the user service struct, we have our auth. So we can purely access this one here, right? Auth, and we will say verify password. Whatever the plain password, we are going to pass it from our login, right? This is going to be user input. This is, we need to pass it here. The first parameter will be our plain text, right? The plain password. This is going to be password, and second parameter will be our hash password. This is coming from our user. So user.password, right? So now let's try to validate if we have error. If error not equal nil, right? Then we will say return empty and error. So whatever error we are going to accept from our verified password, that is we are going to pass it on, right? Now, if everything is going well, then we will generate the token here, right? Generate token. Now token and error will be our what we can do, we can just simply get rid of all these things from here. We can just simply return it, return s.auth dot generate token, and ID will be, we will provide our user ID, and email will be our user dot email and user dot role, user dot user type. Yes, right, perfect. So now if everything is going well in the login section, right, we will try to find the user by email, and then we will compare the password is correct or not. Then if it is going well, then we will generate the token by providing this user object ID, email, and user type. Cool. So this is user login, right? So let's try to sign up the user. So once we are going to have the correct login, then we will get the generate token. But the same thing's gonna happen for our sign up user also, right? In the sign up user, so what we're gonna do, so because here in the sign up user, we are storing the plain password, right? And that is not gonna work at all. So what we are gonna do here, as soon as we are calling the sign up password, first of all, we will get the hash password, right? So hash password, and here we will say error and s.auth dot get hash password, or create hash password from the string. This is going to be our the input dot password, right? We are able to get the hash password from here. Now we will check if any kind of error is there, then return empty and error, right? So while we're creating the hash password, there may be a kind of error, then we need to return this error from here. Then next, what we are going to do, right before creating this user, instead of this input.password, we are going to provide the hash password. Now perfect. So now we have our sign up user, and we have created our user using the hash password from here, right? So if everything is going well, then we need to generate the token. The similar way we need to do from here. Let's go to login and grab this piece of code from here, copy it and return it from here, right? So now once we are signed up, then also we need to return the token. This is the business logic requirement, which is we have added to our application. But in the most of the cases, while we are signing up, then we are saying sign up successful, please do login. Right. So now let's go ahead and test our endpoint. So we are going to test our register and login endpoint. In both the endpoints, if it is working correctly, it should have to return some kind of authentication token for us. So which is we are going to use in our header to access our private endpoints, right? So let's try to test it out, right? First of all, we are going to test the register and then login, right? So let's go to Postman here, and this is our base URL. So this base URL, it's coming from environment variable. Here you can click this icon, right? Environment variable icon, and you can add the environment variable from here. And in our case, this is our email, right? This is our password, right? It has to be 6 character long. And this is our contact number just for registration. And let's try to click the send button. But before that, make sure like we have spin our server. So go here and make server. Perfect. So it is spinning up in localhost 9000, right? So this is what exactly we are getting it here in the base URL. If you hover to the base URL, yeah, this is localhost 9000, right? Click send. Now can you see in the message it is returning back a kind of token, right? So if you copy this token from here and go to JWT.io, so here if you paste the JWT token, you should supposed to see the payload, right? So can you see we have the payload email, and we have the rule that is called buyer, and this is our user ID, right? And this is the expiry date, right? Perfect. Then let's try to do the same thing for our login as well as. So what we are going to do, we are going to copy this email and password, right? Because we have registered this user. Let's go to login, and here this is not going to be users anymore. And this is login. And let's try to put this one here. Right. Now let's try to login. Perfect. So this is the same token it is giving back, right? So its message is login and token is this one, right? So maybe we are having mismatch of the returning the data. Instead of message, we're returning token from our sign up. So that is maybe we can make it consistent, right? So as an example, it should have to return this token only, right? So let's try to copy this token from here, and let's go back here and add it here as well as. You can see nothing has been changed. Here nothing has been changed. Only the expiry has been changed, right? Perfect. So it seems like our login and registrations are working, but login and registration are not returning the same kind of data. If you go to login, then we can see it is returning this message as a kind of login, token as a kind of token. So let's try to grab this piece of code from here and go to register, right? And here also we can return the same, right? So it has to be consistent. This is going to be like, let's say, a register. Perfect. So now our register and login is working. So both the routes are giving back the access token, right? That is we can use to access our private endpoints, but still all the endpoints are not protected, right? So somehow we need to make it protected, right? So how we can make it? So in that case, we are going to add a couple of codes here. So first of all, let's try to add some code. This is going to be like pub routes, and we will say f group, right? So here we can assign some kind of prefix. This is going to be user, right? Users. And here we will say this pub routes, it means like these are all the routes are going to be public first, right? So let's try to add that one. So instead of this app, we are going to say this is going to be pub routes, and this is going to be pub routes, right? So technically these are the routes like user/register or user/login will be our public routes. Perfect. So now we have our public routes. That is going to be login and register, right? So let's try to make some private routes here, right? ppt routes. And here what we are going to do, we are going to access this public routes from here, and we will say group, and we will again give some kind of prefix here. And after that, what we are going to do, we have already created one authorized function in our auth helper, right? Here, somewhere. Yeah, this one. So this function we are going to use as a kind of middleware right here, right? So let's go here in user handler, and here we are going to say, rh.auth.authorize. Perfect. So while we're going to call all these routes, right? All the routes has to go through like this authorization process, right? So how we can make it possible? So let's try to grab these private routes here, copy, and add it right there. Right? Then this one as well as. Perfect. So now you can see these are our public routes, which is going to be accessible without authorization, but these are the routes right now protected, right? So every time while you are going to access any one of them, right, then you need to authorize yourself. Now let's try to access one of these private routes without the authorization, right? So we will see how it is going to behave, right? As an example, we're going to call this get profile handler, right? This route, this endpoint. And let's go to Postman and go to get profile. And if you call here, right, you can see authorization. We don't have any authorization here, and it's a kind of get call. That's why there are no anybody. And click send, and it says authorization failed, right? So we don't have any authorization right here, right? And this is returning back from here exactly. So if you go to authorize, then you can see this is the message exactly sending from here, right? Now what we can do, let's go to Postman once again, let's go to login, right? Let's try to call once more. Then yeah, it is saying like we cannot do the login because we have already modified our login and registration, right? So what we need to do, we need to add one more thing here. This is called users/login, and for sign up also we need to do like users.registration, register, right? Now if we go to login, then it should have to work. Perfect, so it is working. So let's go to test here, right? So this is a kind of script tab where you can write some kind of coding also. So this is very simple JavaScript coding. So you can see we are parsing the JSON from here, which is going to be JSON data. And inside this JSON data, so this is going to be JSON data. And inside this JSON data, we are going to capture the token from here, this token, and we are setting up the Postman set environment variable as user token, right? So this is what we are going to do, right? So now this specific user token we can access somewhere inside this all the collections. As an example, we are going to get the profile also. Let's say here, and we have right now bearer token. Let's try to make it no auth, right? So let's try to call this one, right? The get user profile. So can you see it says authorization failed, right? So we can assign this bearer token here as well as. So select bearer token, and we can copy this bearer token from here. Let's copy this one, right? And add it here, go to profile, and you can add it here as well as, right? This is also gonna work. But other way around, what we can do, we can just assign it to inherit from the parent, right? So in this case, while we're going to call all this API, everywhere we need to manually add this bearer token. So that is what we don't want. What we are gonna do, we are going to say inherit from parent, and let's go to the parent directory. So in this case, this is the parent directory that is called user service, right? Click right here, and inside this authorization, you can see the in authorization tab. Here you go, here is select the bearer token, right? So here in the token, you can see we are assigning the variable like double brace here, and you can access all the available variables from here. So in this case, let's say user token we are needed here, then this is perfectly fine. So right now, if you go to here in the get profile, then it has to accessible all the token stuff from our parent directory, right? That's why we are saying inherit auth from the parent. Perfect. And try to send a request. Now it should have to work, right? Okay, so its authorization is failed, but somehow the reason is it's a kind of object, right? So definitely this is not falling back here as well as it is returning from here only, right? That's why we are able to see this authorization fail. So where this authorization fail is coming, let's go to authorize function, right? And it is coming from here, right? That means we have some kind of error and user is not working at all, right? So that means we have some issue with the verify token function, right? So let's go to verify token function, and let's try to walk it through one by one all this line. So we have our array, and we have our condition to check the error array count is 2 or not. So this is perfectly fine because here it is returning nil. And this is our token string, which is we are getting from our second part of the token, right? Token array, and first part will be bearer. Now here, this is the error exactly. Can you see like we are comparing this token string with our bearer? So this is technically has to be our first part of the token. So what we need to do, say token array will be 0 because this is the case where we will be compare like first part has to be bearer, right? And if it is perfectly fine, then it will go through here, then it will be going to execute everything, and it will convert that specific token to our domain model, right? So let's try to check it out once again. Okay, now let's go here and we will send a request here. Perfect. So now can you see it is working, right? So we are able to get the user profile, right? So if you go here somewhere else also, let's say what are the endpoints are available? Let's say verify, profile, card. Let's try to call the verify. Let's say get verify, right? Then user verify, right? So now this is also we are using inherit auth from parent. Can you see it is working correctly? So this is how we are going to protect our routes, right? Now let's try to do one thing. Let's try to remove all the auth from here, and let's try to call this one again. Can you see it is authorization is failed? So that means without authorization token, we cannot access these protected routes, right? So, but one more thing. As an example, we need to get our profile, right? Get profile. Then how we can get the user data? So here, while we are going to call this authorize, right? Then we are assigning the user data. You can see here. So line number 122, we are setting up our user. So somehow we need to read this user, right? Because while we are going to call this user handler to get profile, then we need to make sure like whatever the user we are going to logging in, right? Whatever the token we are sending in the header, that specific profile has to get it back, right? So how we can get it? So let's go to get profile, and here inside this get profile, you can directly grab it here. This is going to be user, and you can say h.sbc.auth. Then we can directly call this get current user. So here we need to pass the CDX, right? That's going to work. Like, let's try to return this user as a kind of here user will be our user. All right. So this user we can log it here. Log dot println as an example user. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and try to call this get profile once again. Here, get profile. Now send a request. Now can you see we are getting the user back here, right? So this is the data exactly, it's coming from our payload, but you can see like we have our ID, we have our email, right? And we have our user type as well as, and this is our expiry. Perfect. So this is how exactly the authentication part is going to work. And here also it is printed out because of this line, right? So now what we are going to do, while we are going to call this get profile from our service, then simply we are going to pass this user ID here as an example, the user.id or user.email we are going to pass. Then we can fetch the particular data from there, right? Perfect. So now I hope you understood how this public and private routes are going to work in the Go, and how we have protected all the routes using the authorize function here, right? So now if you can try to log in from with the help of some different email ID or different user ID, it's going to work accordingly. But if you try to use some kind of different password, as an example this one, it should supposed to send some kind of error also, right? Now can you see, please provide correct user ID or password. This is how the whole authentication mechanism is working. So now I hope you have enjoyed this video tutorial, and in the upcoming lecture we are going to cover all these private endpoints where we are going to add some kind of code where we will send some kind of verification code with the help of some SMS or some kind of notification service, and we are going to create our profile, get profile, and we are going to work on our card and orders, etc. Right? Perfect. Then I will see you in another episode.